Welcome to the very first episode of the PJ Hoops podcast. I'm your host, Phillip, and this is my co host.
JJ.
And this is something special, man. I've been talking about getting into making a podcast, and I just been behind the scenes working, just literally straight up grinding, trying to make this a reality. Shout out to everybody that's helped me make this a reality. And um, yeah, my guy JJ, man. JJ, want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm JJ. I've been a big sports fan for a few years now. Well, really for over a decade. Me and Philip became friends over the last, I don't know, last year. And one day we just realized we were both super into sports, and he hit me up and he's like, "Hey, let's get together and start talking about it." So I was like, I'm down. And then this is how everything came about.
Yeah, so just to let you guys know, our goal really at this point in the year, we got the draft going on, we got free agency going on. Obviously, summer leagues around the corner. Our goal is to put out at least 2 episodes a week, really, in this next month, just trying to be consistent, putting out content for you guys because we understand a lot is going on. Like, bro knows what just happened, what just dropped about Michael Bridges. So we're gonna dive into that probably towards the back end of the pod. But this first episode, honestly, is literally just about the draft and our thoughts and opinions about the draft, our top 10. So the top 10 prospects that they mainly have that they believe that are the top 10 best players. We're going to talk about them a little bit. We're going to talk about potential trades going on at the top of the draft. And yeah, like I just said, we're going to wrap it up and we're going to talk about the big bomb that just happened 30 minutes ago. JJ, you got anything to add to that?
No, I think you hit it pretty much exactly how we're going to do it. I'm ready to get into it.
Man, let's make it happen. Okay, so our first topic is we're going to talk about just the top 10 prospects in general. I'm going to list off the 10 players that they have considered the top 10 prospects, and then we will, we can start at the top, and both of us just kind of give a briefing on what we think player's player comp is, and yeah, we'll start off with that. So the first person, actually, we can start with number one. The first person on the big board they got is number one on what I'm using is Tankathon. Is Nikola Topic, which I thought was, I don't know why they have him number one, but I think we both can agree it's probably Zachariah Ricochet is probably number one right now. Would you agree, JJ?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of between him and two other guys, but he's in the mix. I could see the Hawks taking him, so yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was like, if I'm just going off the Tankathon, I'm literally going off. Obviously, I don't think he's number one, but we'll just go off of their order. Obviously, we have a different order than they do. But yeah, Nikola Topic. Do you want to speak on Nikola first, or you want me to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. I mean, I like Nikola. Obviously, it's concerning he just tore his ACL. But I like the feel that his game has. I'm not sold on his athleticism. His jumper is a little bit shaky, but he's very high basketball IQ. I certainly want to have him, like Tankathon has him, number one. I think he's closer to maybe the end of the lottery for me, but he's a solid player. As far as the spear comp goes, it's kind of hard to pinpoint. Maybe like a 6'6" Goran Dragic, something like that. Goran Dragic eventually though did become a very good 3-point shooter. So it kind of depends on how Topic can develop that 3-point shot. But his finishing, he's very crafty at the rim, very good passer, good ball handler. I didn't like his measurements. It came out there was rumors that he had 7-foot wingspan for a while, and his measurements actually came out he had a negative wingspan. I didn't like that. So it's interesting to see where he'll land. I definitely wouldn't put him on though.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like I said, I used to Tankathon, but we all know who's really number one. But yeah, Nikola Topic to me is I think he potentially is going to be able to be a starting point guard in the league. I understood like months ago why the Spurs had him where they had him. In the mock months ago, they had the Spurs taking him at 4. And even some mocks still kind of have 4, but I don't think he's – obviously, I don't think he's going to go 4. But to me, Nikola Topic, the player comp I got for him is more like a Ricky Rubio type player, a player that can really just pass out of the pick and roll, really read the defense. And like you kind of hit it on a little bit, his jumper is a little shaky, but I think there's a lot of promise there. He shot – I think close to 85-90% from the free throw line. And to me, free throw shooting is a good teller if somebody's going to be able to shoot or not, and it translates to the next level. And just from the footage I watched on him, I think he's going to be able to develop. I know back Overseas, he shot like 30% from three this last season, which obviously is horrible. But Ricky Rubio, I mean, Ricky Rubio was never a good jump shooter, but Ricky Rubio also never shot like from the free throw percentage the way Nikola Topic does. So I think he for sure has that room to grow. And like you kind of hinted on, he could be like a Goran Dragic later down the line. But I think he probably will end up being a starter in the NBA. And but he has good height though. You know, he's 6'7", like you said, negative wingspan, which lets us know that's odd. You know, I haven't really seen many top prospects have a negative wingspan. Do you have any other comments on him or?
No, I'm curious. Where would you, if he didn't tear his ACL, where would you have put him?
So for me, I try to take injuries out of it because I feel like that's when players get lost in the sauce. Like Michael Porter Jr. back, you know, he had his back issues coming out of Missouri. Yeah. He should never slipped how far he did last year. Cam Whitmore, I was literally beating on my brother's head, bro. Houston stole Cam Whitmore, and like I told you, I recorded a pod before, and if you listen to my pod last summer, I literally talked about how Houston stole him at 22. He was not supposed to go that low. So for me, I try to take injuries out of it. But without the injuries, honestly, I would probably have him at probably 8 to the Spurs. Would probably be around that 8 to 9 range, which I think he's slated, like you said, to go in the back end of the lottery. But for sure, like I see why the Spurs was looking at him at 4. I can understand why he was projected at 4. But yeah, I think I'd put him around that position.
Okay.
Yeah. So then the second person Tankathon has, again, this is not ours. But they have Reed Shepherd as their number 2 prospect. I'll go. You know, you went first last time. I'll go first this time. Reed Shepherd. If nobody knows who Reed Shepherd is, he's a miniature point guard out of Kentucky. Straight sniper, in my opinion. I think his player comp for me is kind of like a Peyton Pritchard 2.0. And I give the 2.0 because when he's a little bigger than Peyton Pritchard, and just with his size alone, he's going to be able to play better defense. And from what I've seen on Reed Shepherd, like the games I watched on him throughout last season, the dude can play defense. And he seems like he has a very high basketball IQ, you know, and he shoots the crap out of the ball. He shot 52% this last year in college. But yeah, and his player comp, like I said, for me is Peyton Pritchard 2.0. And I think it's pretty safe to say he's probably going to go in the top 3 is what a lot of mocks have him at. But yeah, and I've been telling my brother, like I was talking to my brother over the last couple months. And like even during the college season, like him and his friends kept saying Dillingham was better than Reed Shepherd. But I personally don't believe that. I think Reed is a starter. I think he could be a starter. That's why I have him as like a Peyton Pritchard 2.0, you know, because Peyton can't be a starting 1. We know that. You know, his role is as a backup. But I think Reed Shepherd on the right team, I think could start at the 1. What do you think about him?
That's interesting. I mean, he's obviously the best shooter in the draft, hands down, for me at least. I don't think there's a question on that. I don't think it's enough. I wouldn't take him top 5 personally. I know there's been a lot of rumblings about that. His advanced stats are insane. I couldn't justify taking somebody who doesn't quite have enough point guard skills to play the point guard, in my opinion. But he's also obviously too undersized to play the 2. So it's kind of like the winner. And you know, he's a shooting, he's a defender, but his size worries me a little bit too much to take him top 5. I would take him top 10 probably.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about him.
No, I agree. I wouldn't take him top 5 either. Yeah. They just got him slated, you know, at 3. And I get it. You know, like I said, the kid can play defense, he can shoot. And I'm gonna challenge you a little bit on his playmaking. And I'm only even gonna say that because if you look at who was on that Kentucky team, so many playmakers. They had DJ Wagner, you know, Dillingham, Justin Edwards handled the ball a little bit for them. And they had the upperclassman. You know what I'm talking about. He was their starting shooting guard. I forgot his name. He had dreads, though. Do you remember his name?
Yeah, no, I can't remember his name. I'm blanking out right now.
Reeves. Antonio Reeves. He was upperclassman. And so I think, like I said, I think Reed Shepherd, I think he got playmaking to him. Is that all I'm saying to you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've seen it. Like, especially his outlet passing, I think it's very underrated. I don't know if it's enough to play starting point guard long term. I feel like he's kind of got to be a 2 or get a playmaker next to him, and it makes it a little wonky.
So would you think he'd be better off? So let's say, ideally, for better championship team, and let's just hypothetically say, let's just go off of where they're saying he's trying to go. They're saying he's going to go to Houston at 3. Yeah. Do you think the way that Houston team is constructed, could he be their starting 1?
Yes, and Houston is actually a rare scenario where it would be a perfect fit, in my opinion, for a couple of reasons. They have Amen Thompson, who, even though his rookie year he didn't show he was a point guard or anything close to it yet, but he was projected to eventually be like a ball handler, pass first, crazy vision, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he can, if you have him playing number one or him and Reed alternating playing number one, it works because then him at 6'8", amazing defender, so you can make up for the lack of size if you were to put Reed at the 2. Also, Houston has changed where you can kind of afford to not have quite as much ball skills as a point guard because you can play like a 2-minute game, kind of like how Jokic and Murray play, where it'd be kind of like them, like, no, Murray's not the best point guard, he's not like a pure point guard, but he gets away with it because of the 2-minute game. I feel like Houston is the rare scenario where it'd be a perfect fit for Reed.
I agree. It's crazy you said that because I literally told my brother that they could be like a dumb version of that. I was literally telling him the exact same. I was like, bro, that's like a dummy version of them. But I mean, I think he's gonna go 3. It's looking like it. Obviously, like I said, towards a little bit later on, we'll talk about trades and stuff. But it's looking like, from what I've seen, I mean, man, there's so much to talk about. But yeah, so we'll just go down to the next person on the big board. They got Zachariah Ricochet at number 3 on their big board, which, again, I'm just reading off the Tankathon. And I think we both can agree it's just about almost a done deal. That obviously Atlanta's saying they may or may not take him, but teams got to play that bluff game, leading up to the draft. But I think he's going to go 1 to Atlanta. And do you want to lead off on what your thoughts are on Ricochet?
Yeah, I'm very high on Ricochet, but not. If it was any other draft, I'm not taking him top 5. He's going to be a good player. He's going to be that archetype player that pretty much every team wants. We just saw. We'll talk about this more later. We just saw the Knicks trade 5 first-round picks for the archetype player that you hope Ricochet will eventually mold into. That like 6'7" wing that can guard 1 through 4, maybe 2 through 4, can hit threes at a very high rate. So his player type is very coveted, so I'm high on him in that sense. But any other draft, I wouldn't take somebody with that little like self-creation kind of worries a little bit. If I'm Atlanta, I don't know how you take. I know they say he's probably the one, but I don't know how you just like take him out. I think that's not a reach. But I usually look like the first overall pick. You want somebody with like true star potential,
Yeah, no doubt. I agree.
I don't see star with him, but he's going to be a very good player in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he is going to be a plug and play type of player, which, depending on what Atlanta does, that's what they need right now. I guess it's just more plug and play players. But we'll have to talk more about Atlanta on another episode more deeply. But for me, Zachariah, what's his name? Zachary Ricochet. His player comp is probably like a Harrison Barnes type player. Again, just a plug and play, which is fine. You need those players. Those type of players sometimes win you a playoff game. You know what I'm saying? And the superstars are the ones that win the series for you. So I'm gonna be real with you. I'm not super convinced on his 3-point shooting. Last season, towards the back end, he got a little hot. So his numbers look, in my opinion, a little inflated. He ended up shooting like 39% from 3. Free throw percentage is only 70%. 70%, at least in my opinion, lets me know he's going to be about league average, about that 36 that 36 to 37% range from 3, which is fine. That's fine. But I'm gonna tell you where he's gonna make his money. He's gonna make his money on the defensive end because I think he can shut down. I watched a couple footages of him, and I don't know if you remember. Well, you got to know him. You're a Portland native. Mike James. He locked up Mike James overseas during their game, and Mike James was leading. I think they're in the French league. He led that league in scoring. Yeah. They put Ricochet on him, locked him up. So that's promising. And honestly, a team like Atlanta, let's be real, they need more defense. DeAndre Hunter, he's been solid, but I think Ricochet is going to have opportunity to be even a better defender than him. And DeAndre Hunter, I think, is about average of a defender, maybe slightly above average.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. Ricochet is not the number 1 pick in any other draft.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, Atlanta pulled off something that never happens. Like, they made the play and then ended up with the first overall pick, and then it's kind of like, how do you want to, you got extremely lucky. You kind of want to waste it on like a possible role player, or very good starter that has been diminishing a little bit. I think he will be a very, very good starter, but I don't know if you want to. I personally wouldn't take a swing on some guy with star potential, but yeah.
No, I feel that. I feel that. Okay, number 4 on their big board, they got Alex Sarr. Alex Sarr. I mean, he's a Frenchman as well. Let me just say this as a disclosure. I've already told my brother this. I told another one of my friends this. The French national team, 2028 in LA, they're challenging for the gold medal. I'm telling you right now. If you look at who's going to be on that team, I'm just going to name a few. So they're probably going to have Zach. They're going to have Richuchet. They're going to have Wimby. They're going to have Kalabali. They're going to have Alex Sarr. They're going to have this kid Nolan Torari. Taryn, whatever his name is. I don't know if you know who that is. Do you know who that is?
I've heard the name. It sounds familiar.
So he's a French point guard. He comes out next year's draft, which we already know is low. He's nice. He's solid. He just dropped 45 like 2 months ago in the French league, and that's not normal in those kind of leagues to do that.
Yeah.
You know, really somebody that sees 18. But yeah, he's a hooper. So they're gonna have him. Their team's gonna be loaded, my man, in 2028.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing over there, but they're doing something right.
Bro, the French is coming, man.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, Alex Sarr. I mean, number 2, as you know, he didn't want to work out for Atlanta at 1, which rightfully so. I get it. He has his right and his choice. You know, he's not in the NBA yet. I don't think it's a bad thing that he did that. It kind of reminds me, like, I'm gonna kind of go to football a little bit. It reminds me of when Eli Manning basically was like, I'm cool. I don't want to go there type. But honestly, him at Washington, him at 2, him and Kalabali, I like that. And then I'm gonna say it straight up. I think next year's draft, they're gonna get their score. If that's, I ain't gonna go through the plays right now, but I think they're gonna get their score next year. Because I think Kalabali showed signs, but he's a great defender in my opinion. I think Sarr is gonna be that anchor down low for him. So but yeah, and his player comp for me is kind of that Evan Mobley type of player. On the high and again, these are player comps. Obviously, we're not saying these players are going to become these players. We're just saying these are players that they kind of resemble a little bit in their game. We see flashes of, I just wanted to say that for the crowd who's listening, because some people will be like, "Oh, you're trying to say they're going to be this player," But I just have to say that. But yeah, those are his player comps for me, and I think it's a lock he goes to at Washington. What are your thoughts on Sarr?
I agree with the Evan Mobley comp. That or Jaren Jackson Jr., like one of those two. I'm not as high on Sarr as pretty much everybody else. I wouldn't say he has like the most potential in this draft personally. But with that being said, if I don't really care that he's out. I'm still just taking him. I'm just taking him. I'm calling his bluff. It's not even close. Like potential. Alex Sarr has defensively the potential to be like a Jaren Jackson Jr. But offensively, he's quicker than Mobley and Jaren Jackson. He's shown a little bit of ball handling. I don't really like this touch on the basket or his shooting touch. I talk about him shooting. I personally don't know about that. But the potential is there. I would just, if I'm not landing, I don't care what he says, I'm taking him.
I get that. That makes sense. So just looking at his numbers, it looks like his free throw percentage is about 71%. So he's going to be able to shoot the 3 a little bit. He might be at that 35, 36% range, which he'll be able to stretch a little bit, He'll be able to stretch a little bit. You ready for the next guy? Okay, so they got at number 5. They got Matisse Buzelis. And I'll let you.
I'll start.
You can start off with him. Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about it, so I'll make it quick so you can talk about it more. But I like Matisse a lot. Obviously, he's known as a shooter coming out of high school, and then he struggled in the G League. I think that's super overblown. I don't think people realize a G League 3-point line is farther out than college, obviously. So for somebody like him, it's a crazy adjustment. He's in some of the worst circumstances he can possibly be. The team is losing all these games, not being passed with being a creator, not really getting as many open shots, and he's adjusting to shooting from farther out. So I think that played a big role in it. But I love him as a prospect. I think I love his help shot defense. I think at the 4, he's shown some rim protecting. He's shown a little bit of passing. I wish he was more physical on both ends. I wish he used like his. He's not really strong yet. But he has physical tools. I wish he used that a little bit more. But he knows how to get to his spots. He's shown solid touch times and a little bit of playmaking. So yeah, I'm really high.
What is his player comp?
His player comp? I know the common one is Franz Wagner. That's what I see a lot. I can kind of see that a little bit, like the Franz Wagner, but it's kind of hard to say. At 6'10", with his type of mobility, it's kind of hard to find another one. But for now, I'll just
say Franz.
Yeah, I'll say the Franz Wagner one that everybody has to know.
No, I got you. So his player comp, I kind of struggled with it back and forth a little bit, honestly. And so I came up offensively. I think he could be more like a Lauri Markkanen because I feel like he can do a little bit. Lauri Markkanen, I feel like can not be. He's not a hub. I wouldn't say he's the hub. He can be your hub on offense, but I feel like he can be one of the hubs.
Yeah.
And again, like you just kind of hit it on his size. 6'10", Franz is about the same size, but I do think he moves with a little bit more mobility.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I kind of put the Lauri Markkanen kind of on him. That was his player comp for me. And yeah, I was very high on him. And I told JJ off the record, like, if he fell to Portland at 7, I told him beating over his head. I was like, bro, this is the guy they need. They need this type of guy, He's probably not going to be there at 7. Realistically, he's not. I think they got him projected going to Detroit. I think he's going to Detroit. And honestly, just based off of, I have kind of like an uncle. He's out in Detroit, bro. Like, he's ecstatic to get Buzelis. And Buzelis was a very highly rated kid out of high school. And like you kind of hinted on, his shooting in the G League from 3 wasn't great. Even from the free throw line, it was not good, which honestly I was surprised. But I did do a little digging. In high school, he shot closer to 80% from the free throw line. So I don't know if being in the G League, if he was just shaken up, if the physicality was wearing on him. So when you get into the free throw line, he's tired. I don't really know what the big thing is, but also his volume of free throw shooting was very limited. He only took 2 a game. So that lets me know what kind of rhythm are you really getting in, You're only getting 2 free throws a game, You make one and you miss, So, but I do think he's a much better shooter than what he showed in the G League. And I think in the NBA, he's obviously, let's say he does go to Detroit, he's not going to be the number 1 option.
Yeah.
I'm going to be frank. His first year, he's probably not going to be the number 2 option. So to give him time to be, I expect his numbers to come up from 3 for sure this next year, really with Cade and Ivy with the ball in their hands. Like, I expect his numbers to come up. So, yeah, Buzelis, man. You ready to go to the next one?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said on him. So
okay, let's go to number 6. So number 6, they have Stephen Castle. So I was fortunate enough to go to the Final Four this year, and I went to the championship game with UConn and Purdue.
Yeah.
So I got to watch him and Klingin and Zach Edey live. And that was, for me, it was like a light bucket list thing, So like,
yeah, that's awesome.
It was such a blessing, man. Just experiencing that and the atmosphere, like, it was great. But Castle, off rip, his player comp for me, I've been saying it all year long. I'm gonna beat it over the head. I think he's a Jimmy Butler type player. If you go back and you look at Jimmy Butler at Marquette, and this is what I did. I went back to make sure I wasn't going crazy because I tell people these player comps and they'll be like, "What are you talking? Where's this coming from?" But from watching him and then watching Jimmy Butler back at Marquette, and then even looking at their numbers in college, strikingly similar, very similar. And Castle's shooting, everybody's saying his shooting is really bad. Again, 76% from the free throw line lets me know his free throw shooting should come up. It should come to around league average again, which is fine. Everybody ain't gonna be shooting 40%. You know what I'm saying? Like, most people don't shoot 40%. So this idea out there, it's like, oh, they have to be able to shoot threes. They got to be basically really good at it. Like, no, league average is 37%. And if he can, as long as he can be respectable, which I think he will eventually. Really, if he lands with the Spurs, I think he would get that proper training and tooling to get there, And he's an amazing defender, 6'6", good wingspan on him. I think he was also quote me if I'm wrong, but he was the number 1 rated shooting guard coming out of high school, I believe. If I'm wrong, let me know. But I think he was number 1 shooting guard out of high school. He was for sure top 6 or 7 in in his ranking, I think, or at least top 10. So he has promise, off of that too.
Yeah.
But I think Castle is in a normal draft. I think he still goes top 10. I think he's good enough to where he would still go top 10. Unlike some of the other players we talked about, I think I can comfortably say he would still go top 10. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Castle?
Yeah, I mean, you as far as his play style, I feel like I agree with everything you said. Pretty much hit it on the head. He does play like Jimmy Butler. Obviously, not saying he'll be as good as Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
Most players never end up being that good. My issue with him isn't really the on-court stuff, because I think he's a solid player, a smart player.
Mhm.
It's more the way he's approached the pre-draft process, where he's basically saying he's not a starting point guard, don't draft him. Because I get he wants to be that point guard, but like, come on, you just won at UConn in this system. Like, you prove the way that they were playing you is a proven winning style, and now you're just trying to switch it all up completely. That gives me a little bit of a pause. That's like a little bit of a background. I'm like, okay, it feels like
You got an ego on him.
you're wanting to be a little bit selfish, but I can't knock him too much for it. But yeah, that's really the only problem. As far as his play style, you pretty much hit it on the head. So.
Yeah, and I just want to hint on to his playmaking. He's shown to me out of the pick and roll, he was pretty good at playmaking. So maybe we're wrong. Maybe he is the point guard.
Yeah.
Because in high school, I'm giving him benefit. In high school, he did play point guard.
Yeah,
he did play point. So, but I did see some saying he was basically like, "F you guys, like I'm a point. Don't draft me. X, Y, and Z teams." But again, it looks like he's probably going to go to the Spurs, is what we're seeing. So, yeah, Castle, man.
I mean, they made it seem like he was willing to drop out of the lottery entirely, which is crazy because that's a lot of money.
Man. So the next dude on our big board, I'm kind of happy you get to go first on this one, is Donovan Clingan, his teammate. You get to go first, man. What are your thoughts on Clingan, man?
Okay, so I have a few thoughts. So I at first did not like Clingan. I tend to not like the slow white bigs. That's just usually not my style. I like the athletic centers. The lob threats, mobile, switchable.
Mhm.
But lately he's grown on me a ton for a multitude of reasons. And I remember I was talking to one of my friends, he's a Rockets fan, a diehard Rockets fan. And we were sitting there having a conversation, and we're looking at some of Donovan Clingan's tape, all that kind of stuff. And he pointed this out, and I haven't been able to unsee it since. And he said that to him, he reminds him of Marc Gasol.
Marc Gasol?
Yeah, Marc Gasol. Like, obviously Clingan is the most athletic, but incredible rim protector. His timing is impeccable. He just has a feel for how to get a block, all that kind of stuff. But the thing is the same way that like we only kind of saw flashes of what's Castle BD in that system, we only kind of saw offensively flashes of what Clingan can be. I think he's a very underrated player, and he's only really given great opportunity to play. So I want to see how that looks when he's maybe not the offensive level, but one of the offensive levels on the team, like second or third option. So I think his playmaking is underrated. His post moves, his ability in the post, really good. And you factor that in with probably the best rim protector in the NBA. At first I couldn't see him top five. I would definitely put him top five in this draft.
Yeah. So Clingan again, I got to see him live too. Watch him and Edie go back, and I ain't gonna lie to you, Edie was eating him up. Bro. Really, at the beginning of the game, Edie gave him the first 10 points of Purdue. I think Edie gave him 10, and they had to start helping a little bit. And Clingan adjusted a little bit in the second half, but they still had to double on Edie.
Yeah.
And so that lets me know for Clingan, there's room to improve in his post defense because. You know what kind of beast he got to deal with guarding the post, and he's probably going to be in the West. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see because obviously, we see what teams are trying to grab him, but I would say most teams that are trying to grab him are in the West. So I think that's a room for improvement. But I'm gonna give you a different player comp, and you tell me what you think. So again, I felt the same way about Clingan like you did when I first seen him. I was like, hey, kind of slow, kind of goofy.
Yeah.
But then again, I got to see him live. That kind of opened my eyes a little bit, and then I just really got very intentional with studying him. the player comp I came up with was Georgetown Roy Hibbert. If you go back and you look at look at Roy Hibbert's footage at Georgetown, their body size, even their offensive post game, defensively, very similar. JJ, I mean, I was watching. I was like, bro, this dude, and it was weird. Like it just struck me in my mind. I was like, let me go back and look at him, and then I literally just went back and looked at footage. But to me, I think he's more so Roy Hibbert. But Marc Gasol, you said Marc Gasol, that kind of caught my attention a little bit. It did. So smile a little bit because I was like, is he about to say somebody else? So you kind of shocked me when you said Marc Gasol, but I could see the Marc Gasol comp as well. But for me, more so like a Roy Hibbert. And he did show promise. He did show little signs of being able to pass the ball, like you said, being a passer out of the mid post, which is promising, And again, cleaning under these players is a part of these potential trade rumors. We don't really know who's going to take them. It looks like they keep beating over the head. It's going to be Memphis, but we can throw a couple other teams in there. We can say New Orleans. They got the draft capital to go grab them. Is there any other team you would say can go and get them?
Portland is very interested. Like you said, Memphis.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if Rockets just pick them. I know they got Chingu, but it's kind of they're in a situation where you got to take the best player available, and then in a couple years it's a logjam. Trade whichever one you're not keeping.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they picked them.
So the thing is about Houston, Steven Adams, he has either 1 or 2 years. I believe he has 2 years. I think maybe 1 year left on his deal. I think 2 though. I think it's 2. I'll have to fact check myself. But I think he has 2 left on his deal, so they could take Klingon at 3. It's looking like to me again either team's going to trade up for Klingon or he's going to Portland at 7. Yeah. I think it's comfortable to say that. I don't think Portland's going to trade up and grab him, and I don't think they should per se, only because one, Portland got 7 and 14, but then also to me, who are you giving to Houston? Are you giving Jeremy Grant to Houston? You could. If you're going to give Jeremy Grant to Houston to get the 3rd pick, like I think I would be fine with that. I'd be okay with that. Or are you going to? Yeah, I mean, I don't think Portland's going to have to trade it up because I've seen some also that said Portland wanted 2 top 10 picks. So they clearly like 2 players in the draft, but I just don't see Portland giving up. So they obviously, they don't own any of their 1st round picks until they pay Chicago. So that's all locked. And you're not giving up the Boston pick, and you're surely not giving up the Milwaukee picks.
Yeah.
So what are you trading? The 7 and 14 to move up? No, I wouldn't do that personally. Would you do it? Would you trade 7 and 14 to move up?
If it's for Klingon, no. If it was maybe for somebody like Star, I would consider it.
Okay.
But for Klingon, no, there's no way. Really, even if you were to trade like Jeremy and 7, that's a lot to give up to move up 4 spots in this draft. If you were going to do that, it would make more sense to do it for somebody like Matas.
Yeah. What about 14 in Grant? Would you do it for 14 in Grant? Because then they'll have their 2 top 10 picks.
Maybe before I talk how much Nets got from McHale. But after seeing that, I don't think Jeremy gets anywhere near that, but I think he can maybe fetch you 2 firsts. Maybe I'm being a delusional Portland fan.
No, I think you're right, bro.
Like right now, I think if Portland was to try to deal Jeremy to like the Lakers, I think that, or something like that. Like I think they can give you more, or Dallas. I think you can squeeze 2 firsts out of them. So I don't think it's worth it moving up 11 slots and over Donovan Clinton. This just isn't a draft for it. If it was a different draft, maybe not this one though.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 1,000%. Okay, my man, let's get to the next guy. So the next is Ron Holland. Ron Holland again, another G League dude, highly rated kid out of high school, man. Like I'm so high on Ron Holland. He's been one of my he's been a big dude for me, man. Like I've told people his player comp to me is a Jaylen Brown. And for me, well, yeah, he is Finals MVP. Man, he's top 3 best perimeter defenders in the draft. I think it's him, Devin Carter, and then Ryan Dunn. I think are the 3 best perimeter defenders in the draft. And Holland, bro, like for me, if it was up to me, I would want Portland to take him at 7 personally, because I believe he's one of those players that's day one is going to be able to guard 1 through 4. And I always tell you, JJ, I'm building to win a championship. And to me, he's a player already physically. You can put him on a playoff team, and he's going to be able to play in the playoffs with the physicality. Buzelis is probably not going to be ready for the physicality yet. Ricochet he might be able to, but for sure, I can feel comfortable saying Holland. If Holland, let's say Holland lands, let's say Memphis don't trade up. Let's say Memphis is at 9, or even Utah. If they take Holland, I think in a couple years back, we're going to look back and be like, why did he fall so low? And a lot of people talk about his shooting. Again, I studied the kid, and I've been doing this for years, studying these prospects, dude. Yeah. Years, and I always go against the grain, and I look like the crazy person, but then turn out I'm not crazy, okay? His shooting numbers, I'm looking at him now. He shot 24% from 3, which is god awful, man, in the G League. But then in college, in high school, he shot a little bit better. I believe he was closer to 36%, 37% in high school. But then his free throw percentage, it's 76%. Again, JJ, that lets me know he's going to be about league average from 3. But where he's really going to make his money is on that defensive end. Because I do think he's a player that's going to be able to guard 1 through 4, man. And from day one, I think he's going to be able to play from day one. So it was up to me. Like I said, I would have him. I would like Portland take him. I know I seen some odds saying he might. He was in the top 3 contentions for that. But yeah, I think Holland's one of these players that in a normal draft, I still think he goes top 10. And I already told you his player comp. What do you think about Holland?
I'm the opposite of you with Holland. I am maybe the lowest out of anyone I know on Holland. His defense is promising. I think he's obviously a very good defender. Offensively, though, I'm completely out on him. I don't like his shooting. His jump shot doesn't look terrible, but I just don't know if he has the feel for it. I personally think just from watching him, his basketball IQ isn't the best. His handle isn't really that good either, and he kind of needs to be a slasher for it. I look at him, and my comp for him is honestly like Isaac Okoro with a slightly even worse jump shot than him, and maybe like a little bit better like ball handling and playmaking. It's really that.
You really don't like the dude.
I really don't see it with him. I don't see it. I watched a lot of him. I watched a lot of him when I was watching Buzelis, and I just came around feeling the opposite of the two. I saw flashes with Buzelis of like good playmaking, good basketball IQ, and Holland showed up his first, but it kind of felt like if you give somebody enough opportunity, they're going to show you some good flashes occasionally.
Yeah.
But more often than not, I just saw him get stuck oftentimes. I'm out on him.
You out on him?
I would take him top 14. I wouldn't take him in the lottery. If he fell to like 18s, he has enough potential where I would take him. But
yeah, you are down on him. Yeah, like I said, bro, for me, I think he reminds me of Jaylen Brown. And again, going back, watching Jaylen Brown at Cal, again, I would recommend you go back and just check out how he was at Cal. Because everything you just said, you described about him, is what Jaylen Brown was at Cal. No handle.
Yeah.
But the thing about Buzelis, the same with Jaylen Brown, really could finish in traffic. He's a really great finisher, I believe. Yeah. But only time will tell. So we'll go to our next guy on the big board. I'll let you bring us in on him. Number 9, they got Dalton Connect. I don't even know if I said his last name right.
Yeah, you did.
From Tennessee. You want to bring us home about him?
So I'm torn on him. There's a lot of rumors the Blazers might take him. And it's his upside obviously isn't very high. It's very high floor, low upside. But it kind of feels like this is a draft for a rebuilding team where you take somebody like him who can shoot the ball, amazing, incredible shooter, probably a little bit more than people give him credit for. Not the best defender. About 6'5", 6'6" in shoes probably. So you can play a little bit of the 3, really more of a 2-3. This is a draft where you take somebody like him because you know he's going to be an NBA player. And this is such a like scattered draft. You don't know what you're getting really. There's no star, like superstar. So maybe you take somebody like him and then you focus on the future drafts, finding that real star. And you just kind of like look at this as like, this is the safe pick. We're going to lead this draft, not having wasted the pick on somebody who doesn't pan out. We'll be a player in my opinion. And then the next draft, that's when we try to find that star. And that stacked 2025 draft. So I get the thought process between somebody like Phillips taking them, but I'm also looking at this really. He has not a very good defender, low steal.
Yeah, I'm kind of out on him. I don't really care for Dalton too much personally. I watched him a lot. Early in the season, as soon as he started getting on the radar, I started following him when he had some big games against some big schools. Dalton, obviously, he's a senior. He's like 21, 22. So he has. I mean, his prime is going to start within the next probably 3 years. 2 years probably. So I think he's a player like a Memphis, those like teams that are already in contention, he would be solid for, But for a team like Portland, I'm trying to build a championship team, okay? And I'm gonna straight up say it right now. He can't be your starter on a championship team. I'm telling you that right now, on the record. He can't be. I don't see that at all.
I agree. I think he's too slow to be a full-time shooting guard, but he's not long enough or athletic enough to be a guard threes. So
no, Diddy. Sorry, bro. Oh Lord. Okay, hold on, bro. Don't. Yeah, man. I think we both out on him, man.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't think Portland's gonna take him for the last. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. You can ask my brother. The last couple weeks, I've been fuming because I have seen Blazer media going crazy for this wonky dude and seeing that they're gonna take him, and I'm just like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you the same thing I said 2 years ago before they took Shaedon Sharpe. I told my brother, I told one of my best friends, Shane, he's a Blazer fanatic. I straight up told him, I was like, bro, if they don't take Shaedon, I'm boycotting. I'm not going to a Blazer game. I swear. You can ask them. I told them that. And they took Shaedon, and the rest is history. I was happy about that. But yeah, Dalton, I'm out on him. I think he does need to go to more of like a French contender than go into a team like Portland, no doubt. Number 10, Rob Dillingham is what they got. I'm just going to be short about him. Dillingham, to me, is player comp. Is sweet Lou Williams, Lemon Pepper Lou himself. He's for sure Rob. I think Rob's a player that for sure should come off the bench and be your sixth man, no doubt. Could he be a starter? If he's going to be a starter, it's going to be kind of like Emmanuel Quickly, but he's shorter than that. So I don't think you start Rob Dillingham at your one. Some team is going to start him, but I think if he can find that sweet spot and be that sixth man for the right team, I think he could flourish. I think we'll be talking about him as kind of a sweet Lou. I mean, he was a highly rated kid in his draft. A couple years ago, bro, he was top. I think he was number 1 point guard for a while. And then he kind of fell off when he got to Donda Academy. Shout out to Ye. And then, he went to Kentucky. At Kentucky, my little brother and his little friends kept trying to tell me Rob was the best player on the team. I was like, no. I do think it's Reed Shepherd out of the two. Offensively, obviously, Rob can get his shot a lot better, but I just think Reed's this is what's I think going to be able to allow Reed to be on the floor longer. He's a way better defender. He can shoot just as good as him. Just Rob is a better shot creator, and that's very valuable. That's valuable in the playoffs too. So I know he has a role for sure in the NBA. What do you think about Rob Dillingham?
It's funny how different we are on some of these players in the back half. I feel like the first half we're so. I'm so on Rob Dillingham. That's one of my guys. I think this is going to sound crazy compared to what you just said, like six man. I don't think he has the highest ceiling in the draft. I think other players have higher ceiling. But if I was to put all my life savings on a player in this draft becoming an all-star player or an all-star player, it would be Rob. He reminds me, like his player comp to me, is maybe like Tyrese Maxey type of point guard. I think his shot creating is going to be so valuable. I think he's way more consistent than Lou Williams. It's not just built off like tough shots. It's creating space. He's going to be that type like skilled point guard that you see in the Tyrese Max, the Anthony Simon, those types of guys. Mm-hmm. So I'm all in Rob.
So do you think Rob can be a starting point guard on a championship team?
Well, that's tough because we don't know if any of those point guards besides Steph Curry can be the starting point guard. Like most of those guys, it's always tough because they get picked. Like even Dame, we've spent like a decade being like, can Dame be the championship team? Like you never really know what's tough. But my personal opinion, I think he absolutely can. I mean, you have to surround him around with the right team, like defenders that you can hide him.
Yeah.
But offensively, yeah, I absolutely believe it. I think he's going to be an incredible shot maker. I love his playmaking. I love all of that.
Interesting. So that's our top. Those are the top 10 players that, again, Tankathon had. These are not our top 10 players. Again, I'm just going off of Tankathon. Tankathon's been a very reliable thing for me for 3-4 years now, and I like looking at it because what it has to offer for me. So shout out to anybody who's listening. Check out Tankathon. Tankathon's cool. The next thing we're going to talk about, honestly, we're just going to talk about our draft sleepers. We're going to kind of tell you guys we're going to pick 3 players, and we'll kind of give you a little bit of their player comps, just very briefly. And then we'll do 2 players in the second round that we think are sleepers as well. Do you want to start off? Do you want me to start off?
I can start off. What was it?
Yeah. Sorry, I kind of went fast on you. So your top 3 players that are draft sleepers that are your draft sleepers.
Players that are draft sleepers.
Yeah, and what I mean by, let me clarify it for everybody and for you. When I'm talking about a draft sleeper, I'm not saying somebody that's going to be an all-star, but a player that when we look back on this draft, we're like, okay, he probably should have went maybe a little higher.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah, I have a few of those.
Yeah, go first.
Tyler Smith is probably the first one that comes to mind. I'm incredibly high on him. I don't think he's going to be some superstar or anything like that. Right now, most mocks have him projected somewhere anywhere from like the mid-teens to I've seen as late as late 20s, like 27 through 29. I think he reminds me a little bit of Cleveland Kevin Love in like that core where he can like shoot, spot up, good rebounder, all kind of stuff. Except he's longer than Kevin Love, incredibly athletic. He's a rim threat. So when you have a 20-year-old kid who is an incredible lob threat, can shoot from anywhere on the 3-point line, I just think that's valuable. I think his defense has some work to do. But he's shown some rim threat, probably like the small 5. So he'd be my first one. Second one that I think of that I absolutely love is Keyshawn Ward. I think I said that right.
Yeah, it's Keyshawn.
Yeah, I've seen it like that. Keyshawn, and I started seeing people say Keyshawn.
No, yeah, you good.
Yeah, I'm really big on him. Used to be a point guard, grew. Now he's like 6'7". Incredible shooter. He kind of reminds me of Cam Johnson if Cam Johnson had point guard skills, like that type of shooter, that type of size. The comp I'm using for him is imagine if Josh Giddey. People don't like Josh Giddey, but especially after the kind of year he had. But imagine if Josh Giddey was an elite 3-point shooter. And even a little bit taller. It changes everything for Josh Giddey. You know, he has that court vision, and he has all of that.
Yeah.
Like now, imagine he had a 3-point shot, it would be over for. Like he would have never gotten to the playoffs. So I kind of
shoot, he might be the number 2 option at that point, dude. He could do all that stuff.
Yeah. So, but that's if he hits. I'm not saying he's going to be that good. I'm just saying,
of course,
that's kind of what it reminds me of. And then the last guy, I would have said Salon, but he's kind of gotten a lot of buzz lately. So I'll stick with Nikola Jurisic. I don't know how to say his name.
I know you're talking about.
Yeah, he's really big fan of him. I love his game. Shaky shot right now. I think it'll get there. I like how he shoots, and I like his feel for the game.
Do you have any? So give me 2 second-round players that you think could be steals.
2 second-round players. I think that question is tough because I don't know who's gonna fall into the second round. One of those players I'll see Jurisic, Nikola Jurisic.
Yes, because I feel like for sure he's going second.
Yeah, and then this one is a kind of a pop up. He's definitely not going to be in the second round, but he was for a while. Now he's kind of getting lottery buzz. Is Bub Carrington? He's getting lottery buzz, so doesn't really count as a second round pick. I just wanted to bring his name up, but yeah.
Okay, man. Yeah. So my 3, one for me is Tyler Kolek out of Marquette, point guard. So I think once he gets drafted, I think Phoenix should take him. I think obviously they need a point guard. I think he would be ideal. I think he could start at the one for a team. He could be a good little starting one. But for sure, no doubt, like on a Phoenix team, he could start. On most teams that obviously have a point guard in place, like I'm trying to think of a team that he would come off the bench for. I think at worst he's a backup at worst, but I think he could be a starter on Phoenix in particular. Other teams, I would have him as a backup, but I think he'd be a very solid backup, extremely solid. His player comp for me is a Goran Dragic, Mike Conley type player. Um, Shoots really good. I mean, pick and roll offense. The way I seen him operate at Marquette, run that offense. Like I said, a team like Phoenix, I think could use him very much so. And honestly, that's the only. I'm gonna be real. Like his draft range is toward the end of the first round.
Yeah.
That's the only team I would see him as a starter for. So I just want to be clear to you about that. I'm not saying he can start on every team, but Phoenix in particular, yes. But for sure, I think at worst, he's going to be a solid backup point guard for a team because he can do everything your backup point guard you need him to do. He can do everything that the Tyus Jones can do of the world, like, but he's a better shooter. And Tyus Jones even got better at shooting. And I'm a Duke fan, just to make that clear, so I follow when Tyus wins the national title. Shout out to Tyus Jones, man. Another player for me is Deron Holmes out of Dayton. I watched him. He played. Watched his NCAA tournament games, and he caught my eye. I believe he did. I think they did play against Duke. I believe he played against Duke in the NCAA tournament. But his player comp to me is like a Bobby Portis. I think he would be very solid coming off the bench for a contending team. Wink, wink, Denver Nuggets. Yeah, you're back in. 1 second. No. Okay, yeah. So let's finish up. I say Ryan Gunn, defensive player. And so my two honorable mentions for the second round, Kevin McCullough out of Kansas. To me, he's kind of a Swiss Army knife. Again, another player I can see being in a playoff rotation next summer, depending who he lands with. I'll be keeping my eyes on to see where he lands to hopefully next episode be able to tell you, okay, JJ, he's going to be playing, in the playoffs or not. But and then my other player is Jonathan Mugbo out of San Francisco State.
I was going to say him instead of Bub Carrington, but I just wanted to bring up Bub Carrington for some.
No, you're good.
I'm glad I didn't.
No, you're good. You're good. Would have been all good if you did. I would have just rolled off that. But his player comp to me is like a Kenneth Faried type of player. Also, yeah, he reminds me of Kenneth Faried, like his power and energy. And his playmaking is similar to Draymond. I've seen a little Draymond to him with his playmaking a little bit, but again, these are second round players. So what much more can we ask of these players,
Draymond was the second round player. So,
That's facts. That's facts. So we're gonna wrap it up here. Obviously, just really briefly, everybody that's watching this probably are following basketball heavy or at least know what's going on somewhat. But if you don't, it's been a lot of rumbles, and JJ probably can vouch for this. The third and fourth pick look like picks that potentially could be traded. Really, the third. Again, obviously that big trade today with Mikal Bridges going to the Knicks and all the draft picks and all that stuff with Houston and Houston wanting KD. Like, it looks like it's going to be interesting to see. I think we can both agree that the draft starts at 3. Would you say?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think.
Yeah.
I kind of am curious to see if Atlanta goes with Klingon over Ricochet and Sarr. I saw some rumbles about that, but yeah,
Me too.
The draft starts at 3 for the most part.
Yeah, and so we're just gonna close out this last episode. We're getting close to an hour, so we're gonna wrap it up here. But so I'm just gonna give my opinion on what, and as a grand scope, what I'm gonna be looking for in the draft, and kind of just what I expect out of this draft. Off rip, last year I thought there was gonna be a lot of trades in the draft. There wasn't. I was very mad. I was very disappointed in myself for thinking that, but I do think this draft, at least the hype around it, seems more realistic than last year's. So I'm expecting a couple trades really at the top. If not, that's okay. But I believe this draft is going to be a draft where we look back on in probably 4 years, where we're going to look at it and be like, okay, this draft had some solid role players. This kind of reminds me of the Anthony Bennett draft a little bit. Probably minus the Giannis. But we'll see. Who knows? Let's be real. There might be a Giannis in there. It might be your boy Keyshawn. Maybe, so. But I think this draft is going to have role players, bro. And to me, like I told you earlier, role players win you playoff games. Superstars win you series, and championships. And so to me, this draft is important just like every other draft. Really for a team like the team in your background. Like this is where you're probably going to find, if not your starting small forward, you're going to find maybe one of your starters or at least two role players.
Yeah.
And again, 4 years down the line, when the Blazers are back in the playoffs, it's going to be like, man, I'm happy we took them at 7-14, you know? Or even, like I said, at the Wizards, they may look back on this and be like, man, I'm happy we got Saar at 2 because he's our defensive anchor right now, you know? So I think there's quality in this draft. I do. I just, obviously, there's no star power, but that's okay. Don't got to be star power every draft, okay? Like, and again, we might look back and there might be, but I think we're going to see a lot of role players in this draft. And for me, that's fine. That's fine. They're important, you know? What are your thoughts on this draft, and what are you looking forward to during this draft?
I mean, I agree with everything you said. I don't think every draft needs to have all these stars. I mean, go ask New York how bad they wanted McHale. Like, he's not a star player. I know for a second there it looked like he was, but he's not. I think I won't say that the draft is filled with those players, but it's filled with players who have the potential to be that. So I'm high on the draft. I don't think it always needs to be star players. The thing I'm looking for the most as a Blazer fan personally is anything but drafting Zach Edey at 7. And if there's been reports lately going on that that's a possibility,
Yeah, I see
I will
that.
tell you guys now, if that happens, I will not watch a single Blazer game this season. I will be a Mavericks fan just for 2 years. But that's what I'm looking for this year. So, or in this draft.
No, that makes sense, man. I don't think they're gonna take Edey. I think more realistically at 14, which I think 14. I think that's okay. I think it's fine to take him at 14 as long as he's probably gonna be your backup, you know. But man, I want to talk more. We're gonna dive more in on your Blazers on the next episode on the post draft because important dates coming up is the 29th of June. You know, teams got to decide if they're gonna pick up player options. Players got to decide if they're gonna pick up their own options. 29th, just for any NBA fans, 29th is a very important date for options and stuff. So we're gonna watch a lot of dominoes fall during that, and then also the 6th of July is an important date too for extensions. There's a lot of players that are extension eligible, and so I've been following that heavy the last couple weeks, heavy. And obviously we know BI, he's gonna get traded. Shoot, honestly, by the time our second episode, he might be traded. Let's be real. So I'm gonna just again, kind of like what you said. Obviously, we're both, you know, we're in Portland right now, so we're keeping up with the Blazers. Got to follow the Blazers. I already told this customer that came into my job, like, hey, if Portland's either going to take a wing at 7, or they're going to try to trade, or they're going to get Klingon at 7, either wing or Klingon at 7. And let's say they do get a big at 7, then I think they get a shooter or a wing at 14, or vice versa. Like, I think it's deadlock. Portland's taking some type of wing player at 7 or 14, and then a big either at 7 or 14.
Yeah.
I think it's comfortable to say that. And so, I'm gonna just be paying attention to see where a lot of these players land. We know Bronny, he's going probably to the Lakers. And I'm excited, man. Like this for me, in my opinion, this is the time of year where you really find out who the real basketball heads are, who really understand the game of basketball. Because if you can identify somebody in high school and then in college and project them in the NBA and they turn out to be that, you know the game, in my opinion. Because we see it every year. GMs and stuff, they suck at drafting.
Yeah.
Horrible. And so for us, below average, people financially to be able to predict that, I think it screams to our basketball knowledge. So I'm excited. And do you want to give any last words before
No.
Do you want to give any last thoughts before I close it out for us?
No, I think we covered it all. We'll see you guys after the draft. We'll talk about more prospects that we both like and how we feel about their fits on their teams. I know some of y'all probably wanted us to talk about like Cody Williams and Tijon Salons and all of those, and we'll cover those after the draft.
Yeah, and let's not forget, again, me and JJ, I have JJ on this pod because I believe in his basketball knowledge. So yeah, we didn't cover a lot. There's a lot of players we could have sat here and covered, but let's be real. I'm not about to make no stream for no 2 hours. I got stuff to do. I got money to make. So I got to get off here. But yeah, again, we'll see you guys after the for the goal again is for these first couple weeks to at least try to upload twice a week. And then we'll cool down during summer league and stuff and then pick back up towards the beginning of the season. But let's have fun, man. Let's make something special happen here. When I get obsessed over something, I get obsessed over it. And my goal is really to have one of those platinum plaques on a wall. with our names on it. Like I believe that, man. I'm a man of faith, and I believe that's one of my callings from God, man, is to make that happen. So I'm really going to do my all to really get us there, man. And with that being said, man, thank you for watching the PJ Hoops podcast. We're out.
Peace.